a delicious, crisp, and refreshing polar seltzer. Not quite brought to you by them yet, but in an unofficial capacity, the Robin Lundberg Show, presented by Polar Seltzer, as my being is basically presented by Polar Seltzer. What's up, y'all? Sorry I was late. Working on a possible story, so I had to keep you waiting for a couple of minutes. My apologies. My apologies. But I am indeed here now. And a lot going on in the world of the WNBA and the coaching, specifically with the Indiana Fever. And I mean, it doesn't take a genius to figure out what's going on here. Christy Sides dismissed, fired. I mean, we can use the word fired in this instance on Sunday because that's what happened. I don't know if that's when she was actually fired or not, by the way. That's when we all learned it was official that she was fired. I knew she was fired when the report in the Chicago Sun-Times came out by Annie. Is her last name Costabile? However you pronounce her last name, my apologies to Annie, but she's been all over this story. But when she reported that Stephanie White was in talks with the Chicago Sky and the Indiana Fever, I knew that Christy Sides was done. I suspected that Christy Sides could be done when new management came into the Indiana Fever, simply because that's the way it works, right? Like, I've been through enough restructurings where the new management almost always gets rid of middle management, almost always brings in their own leadership team. So when Cross Cup came back and it's announced that Amber Cox came back as GM, who I think took over officially today, um, the job status for Lynn Dunn and Christy Sides became very tenuous. Lynn Dunn was almost immediately shifted into a different role in the organization, senior advisor role. And then Christy Sides, it was up in the air, but she had to have felt her spider senses tingling, if you will, at that point in time. Now, I wasn't sure. I'm not going to say I was sure. I wasn't certain that she was gone then. I just knew it was a real possibility. Now, the one thing that could have protected her was that the Fever started 1-8. They wound up making the playoffs. They make the playoffs for the first time since 2016. So, of course, that's a bit of leverage for a head coach. But it wasn't enough to keep Christy Sides around because the Fever believe they have an upgrade in place, and the Fever believe they needed an upgrade. And as I said before on the previous video about this, if Caitlin Clark wanted Christy Sides to stay, she'd still be the coach, right? Like, I'm sure, I'm not saying Caitlin Clark got Christy Sides fired, but she had the leverage. And I've said all along, if she wanted Sides to be her coach, Sides would be her coach. If she didn't care or wasn't a huge fan of Sides, then Sides would be gone. And, it's interesting. None of the Fever players have said anything since this news came out. Maybe a lot of them weren't fans, or maybe they're waiting for the dust to settle a little bit so that they can say something in a positive fashion, or waiting for the other shoe to drop. One of the other shoes just dropped. Stephanie White, the head coach of the Connecticut Sun, former head coach of the Connecticut Sun, is out in Connecticut, which was also expected because the Chicago Sun-Times had also reported that they expect Stephanie White to become the next Fever coach. So in order for her to become the next Fever coach, she had to become the former Connecticut Sun coach. Pretty simple. And that happened today. So I'm looking, it's a matter of time. It's simply a matter of time before Stephanie White is announced as the Indiana Fever head coach. It's not confirmed, by the way. I can't tell you that it's confirmed, but I think it is all but signed, sealed, and delivered. And I think the Sides move came as a result of them knowing they had White. And Stephanie White, I mentioned the Fever made the playoffs for the first time since 2016. She was the coach in 2015 when the Fever went to the finals. Do you know who was running the Fever then? Kelly Crosscup. I can never. I got to get her name pronunciation right. Who is running the Fever again now? She left to run the Pacers or be an assistant general manager for the Pacers for a while in the NBA. She's back, so there's a connection. There's also the connection with Stephanie White and the state. She's a native of Indiana. And when the Sun and White spoke to ESPN, they said this was a professional and personal decision. So obviously, and I know Stephanie White had some stuff going on with her family, she said in one of the post pressers. So I'm imagining part of the allure is being back home around family. And then, of course, a huge part of the allure, we'd be all be, you know, blind to it. It would be coaching Caitlin Clark and this Fever team. And the Connecticut Sun, as good as they've been, and White got them to two semifinals, was coach of the year in 2023. That's a team with a limited ceiling going forward because they've got so many free agents in that building. And it's kind of funny to see all the connections between Stephanie White and the Fever, who she was very complimentary of Cross Cup when she came back. And she's also been very complimentary of Caitlin Clark. Before Caitlin Clark came in, she said she would adjust better to the league than any other rookie. Early, when Caitlin Clark had a few struggles, she defended her. Apparently, the first person Caitlin Clark talked to before her first game was Stephanie White. Obviously, the Fever played the Sun in the first game of the season. They played the Sun in the fourth game of the season. They played the Sun in the playoffs. So White is a familiar foe. Stephanie White was also, interestingly enough, in the video that um, was sent to congratulate Caitlin Clark on the all-time scoring record when she was still at Iowa. I guess because she called so many games or was an analyst on so many games. I'm not sure, you know, what the deal is exactly there. Why that was I'm assuming that was the connection at the time. But now the connection is she is almost sure to be the head coach of Caitlin Clark going forward. I'd be stunned. I would be stunned if that was not the case. A lot of connections there. People in the chat are telling me that Stephanie White was also number 22 when she played. Let me look that up. Stephanie White, Indiana Fever images. Of course, I'm gonna get all these coaching images before I can get a player image. Yeah, she was at one point number 22. I don't know what she were her whole career, but looking at this photo right here, she was 22. Unless that image is doctored, which I don't believe is. Pardon me. I am not feeling so great today either. I took my son to SmackDown on Friday night at Barclays Center for his birthday, and then he had a soccer game super early the next day, so it was a quick turnaround. And then Saturday night, I went to Korean barbecue and karaoke, and I was basically like a human jukebox because I'm versatile, and lost my voice and haven't been feeling that great since. But I had to be here today. Had to be here today in order to talk about all this news. And now there's a bunch of vacancies, obviously, with head coaches in the WNBA. The Connecticut Sun, new head coach. The Indiana Fever, soon to have a new head coach. The Atlanta Dream, Washington Mystics, Chicago Sky, Dallas Wings, and Los Angeles Sparks, right? That's seven open jobs, I think. Fever not gonna be, you know, um, Fever not gonna be, open for very long. Kevin Zwicker, the super chat, in your opinion, where is the second best opening? Well, there's only one opening right now. I mean, I think the Fever is spoken for. I would say the second best opening is probably the Sparks. because you got to remember Cameron Brink missed this season with the ACL injury. So you're going to get Cameron Brink back, who didn't play for much of this year, and you're very likely going to get the number one overall pick in the draft. So I think if I had to pick the best opening beyond Indiana, which is clearly not open, it would be Los Angeles. It would be Los Angeles. All right, that's what I had to say about all that. Again, it's not really new news. It's all like the second, and again, credit Annie from the Chicago Sun Times. I want to make sure I credit her. Um, I don't know if there was actually a chance that White was going to Chicago or if just a phone call was made, but because of the connection she was able to establish to Chicago, she broke that news, and she's been all over it. She's been all over it, and ever since her report that the Fever and the Sky were in talks with White, I knew Christy Sides was cooked. I knew it at that point, and I know a lot of y'all are celebrating. Christy Sides, look, I don't think Christy Sides is a terrific coach or anything like that. I think she did a nice job in taking a team from the the bottom of the basement and helping to develop it. But the Fever clearly have serious goals in mind. And one thing that always annoyed me about them was how often Sides and um, others, Lynn Dunn specifically, like kept saying like the goal was the playoffs and in the next few years competing for the championship. Yeah, I mean, duh. The championship is goal one now. Next year, goal one. I see some of y'all in the chat saying Stephanie White has left the Sun. I know, I said it. I wrote an article on it. Check it's in the link in the description. There's two pieces in there. One is the one I wrote yesterday about the Fever meaning business, and the other is the news that White is out and it's just a matter of time. And for those of you who say I did defend Coach Sides, I did. Now I didn't defend her and say she's the best coach in the league and she should keep the job forever. I just thought people were a little unfair to her when they put all the blame on her and none of the credit toward her. Now, at the same time, I also said very clearly that I thought if Caitlin Clark wanted Sides, she would be around. If Caitlin Clark wasn't a fan of Sides, she would be gone. And I do think Stephanie White is a better coach than Christy Sides from what I've seen, from her resume, uh, from her demeanor. There was always something about Sides that she wasn't warm, I guess is the word. I'm not sure the right word. I don't want to, you know, say anything uh, out of pocket because Christy Sides hasn't done anything to deserve slander, but she just never came across like super warm in a certain way. And Stephanie White, that Connecticut Sun team, I think reached its maximum potential. I don't think that was a team that underachieved in any way, shape, or form. Sides eventually made some adjustments during the season, finally benching Christy Wallace, finally starting Lexi Hull, but it took a long time. Her use of timeouts and challenges was questionable. And there always seemed to be, I don't want to say a feud between her and Clark, but a lack of this between her and Clark. Meanwhile, you got a clear upgrade in Stephanie White. So I don't hide from what I said. And I thought she would keep her job until the reports came out. You know, I, you guys can say whatever you want in the chat. I'll tell I'm not never gonna hide from what I say, um, or back down from what my opinion can change with new information. But as far as this move, I am on board with this move for the Indiana Fever, and it's just usually I don't expect, I guess, a team to be as ballsy as this, because usually teams aren't as ballsy as this, because that's a pretty significant move by the Fever, to oust a coach who gets the team to the playoffs for the first time since 2016, who helps guide a turnaround, in new to the job, early in her coaching career. But again, I also said she needs to be on the lookout when the new management came in. That was sign number one that something could happen. Then I think it was Crosscuff said some positive things about Sides, but some of y'all astutely pointed out retroactively, and I'll give plenty of you guys in the comment section credit for that she never said the positive things in connection to being the coach. She just said blanket positive things. Then there was the report that the Fever were talking to White, and that's when I knew Sides was done. And then Sides, of course, was officially done, and now White is officially done in Connecticut. And I mean, we could pre-write the story of uh, Stephanie White becoming the head coach of the Indiana Fever, and that's happening. I would be shocked if that didn't happen at this point. Matter of maybe later tonight or by tomorrow. I think we know that. Eduardo says out kicker calling CC a coach killer. Thoughts? Who cares? That's an easy way to get engagement, an easy way to create conversation. Most great players have been a coach killer at some point. Magic Johnson, coach killer. Michael Jordan, coach killer. LeBron James, coach killer. You know, um, the original coach of Shaq and Kobe, wasn't that Del Harris? And then it was Phil Jackson. Uh, Obviously, Doug Collins, Michael Jordan, Doug Collins gone. Phil Jackson. Magic Johnson with Westhead gone. Pat Riley. LeBron James. I'm trying to think of which coach I would actually say LeBron got fired. Probably David Blatt, more so than any of the other coaches that I would say was a cause and effect with LeBron. And then they won the title the next year with Ty Lue. I don't know if LeBron's really gotten any other coaches fired per se, but um, that happens all the time. So is she a coach killer? In the sense of I don't know how it worked behind the scenes, so I can't tell you. But I know this from being a human being with a brain. If Caitlin Clark was adamant Christy Sides remain the head coach, Christy Sides would be the head coach. So if you want to call her a coach killer, put her in good company. Tokyo bumped into Cheryl Reed right after the finals with her family at a restaurant. But I gave her space, but boy, she wasn't happy about the ugly loss. I mean, she had every right to be upset. I basically ran to that press conference to get a front row seat for what she was going to say because I knew she was not going to be happy. And I also knew she was the type to not hold her tongue, right? So, yeah. All right, let me get to thank you guys for the super chats. Let me get to some of the other comments. I'll do my best to sort through these. Yep, Stephanie White out as Sun coach, major news. Nike Rawhide heard it from me first. No, you didn't. I didn't hear it from you first, dude. The article on this has been written for like 2 hours. um, Marina Scott says, White, Kelly, and Amber came to take care of some business. That's for sure. Robert says, I guess it's how it goes when your team realize you're negotiating with other teams. Well, I mean, that all doesn't happen if this. I think a lot of this stuff was probably done behind the scenes in the weeks or days leading up to this, and this is when it was announced. Jeff says, will this mess up Kelsey Mitchell's re-signing? I doubt it. I mean, the new management has also said that they see that as priority number one, bringing back Kelsey Mitchell. So until the contract signed, that's not official, but I would be that's another thing that would surprise me greatly at this point is Kelsey Mitchell not returning. Bobby U says hiring Stephanie White is like the Fever want to relive their glory days by assembling the old gang. You can never go back. Yeah, it's a decent point. The only thing I would say is that the WNBA is now in prime time, and a lot of that happened when the WNBA was not in prime time. And if you have experience with people and you believe in them, why wouldn't you run it back? I mean, you know, Phil Jackson did it with the Bulls, and then he did it with the Lakers. So it's not to say they can't run it back and do it again, especially now that they got the horses. AJ Schreiber says, Robin, do you think Liberty were gifted their title because the WNBA felt bad about the Yankees and Jets being so terrible? Well, the Yankees are not terrible. Let's get that out of the way. They're in the World Series. We cannot, because of our, race to clown people or things to be like, the Yankees are terrible, even if they get swept by the Dodgers. If they lose the next two games 100-0, the Yankees are not terrible. They're in the World Series. They were, the second best team in baseball regardless of what happens, if not the first. I mean, the series isn't over yet either. They're only down 2-0, 2-0. They could still win the series. The Jets are absolutely terrible. And I never understood why people thought the Jets would be so good this year just because Rodgers was back. If you watch them play offense last year. Um, where we at? Element Gold says, "What other words of wisdom did you have in the past? AR is Rookie of the Year. CC is in the top five. USA will win gold easily. I have a feeling you've been wrong a lot this summer." You talking to me? I never called Angel Reese Rookie of the Year. I've been on the Caitlin Clark train from the beginning. I did expect USA to win gold. They did. There was one game that was a contest. Um, yeah. Michael S says, "What coach can we complain about now?" Oh, by the way, back to that other comment. It's funny because when you do what I do, everyone loves to point out when you're wrong or even close to wrong. They never point it out when you're right. Never. It's never like, "Oh yeah, you had that." So it's almost a zero sum game. Well, people will find a way to complain about Stephanie White. She might have a grace period. JD Max says number one rule in professional sports: don't get comfortable. Yeah, and I think that applies with Christy Sides because whatever you think about Christy Sides, you can't look at her resume and say, "Oh, she needed to be gone." Like you had to be in the weeds and you had to be in the interpersonal relationships to know that you wanted to make that change. But if you were just looking from the 30,000-foot view, there was nothing about what her tenure that made you think, "Oh, she needed to be gone." In fact, her post was correct. Leave it better than you found it, right? Like she did indeed leave the Fever in a better situation than she inherited. So I don't want to slander Christy Sides too much on the way out the door, though I think the reaction from Caitlin Clark's haters lets you know this was a good move too. They're all up in arms about the biggest Christy Sides fans ever. Um, and that lets you know they're a little shook that Stephanie White is heading to the Fever. Margay says, "I think the Sparks, if they get Page and have Brink there as well." Same. Her account says, "Hopefully Sides will find something soon. Looking forward to the new Fever coach." Look, Sides has some options, right? Sides can get one of these vacant jobs. There's a bunch of them. Sides could easily parlay this into a TV deal or even a book deal. I mean, she was Caitlin Clark's first professional coach. I mean, wouldn't you buy the book of Christy Sides telling you what happened? The untold stories of Caitlin Clark's rookie season in the WNBA? Anna saying players doing it told them stay off social media. Yeah, we'll see. I think eventually somebody will say something, but I'd be surprised if no one says anything. Maybe they wait for the White shoe to drop and they congratulate White and than say, you got to remember all the, Caitlin was in Iowa. I think Aaliyah Boston's on vacation. Kelsey Mitchell's in China. So um, they might be waiting till the right time in their mind. Brian Ackley says the WNBA blows. Yeah, except for you're in my comments every day, dog. You must secretly love it. You must really love it. Frederick Robinson, this move shows that the Fever mean business and they're committed to winning. Shout out to the Fever's new president, Kelly Crosscup, for having the courage to do the right thing. Yeah, that's the other. I mean, it takes balls, guts, intestinal fortitude, whatever synonym for that. Um, that needs to happen. For that to happen, I'm sorry, because it's not easy to make a decision like that. Because to the people who weren't following the Indiana Fever day in, day out, game in, game out, and understanding why some were critical of sides, they'd go like, "What the hell?" AJ, your F1 takes are usually spot on. Ferrari has won the last 2 Grand Prix. Do you think they will overtake McLaren for the World Championship? Um, I mean, that's tough. But I mean, 2 in a row, that it would indicate if the trends are the way they are, I would stick with Ferrari. I'm gonna go with Ferrari at the World Championship. I think I gave the list of vacancies now. Sky, Sparks, Wings, Dream. Um, I'm not even counting the Fever, Mystics, right? And one more. What's the other one I'm missing? Sun. Go. People say Bluter, like John Bluter's not going to be the coach. Stephanie White's going to be the coach. Macmillan saying she was drafted by the Fever and finished with the Fever. I'm assuming that's in regards to Stephanie White. And yes, WWE was in town. I was at Barclays Center. Um, I was at Barclays Center. They taped 2 shows, which is funny because I'm gonna see SmackDown on TV that I saw in person already. It was kinda confusing. In fact, we got there late, and my son was kinda pissed at me because I mean, I did it spur of the moment. I got the ticket spur of the moment on Friday afternoon, and I didn't realize that the show was starting early. It said on the ticket 6:45, but I just thought that meant the doors or something. Because SmackDown, I mean, I do a SmackDown post show with Denise Salcedo every Friday night. You can check out on her YouTube channel, and it always starts at 8, and it's a live show. So I didn't think that, um, I didn't think that it was starting. There was no reason for me to think it was starting early. They should have put it like a big blaring note there. So we get there an hour late from the first show, though we didn't miss any of the good parts. We saw Cody and Gunther. We saw the Bloodline segment, Roman, and then they take the second show after. And so we got to see all the, his favorites come out twice. Element Gold says, "Dang, you guys go to a lot of live events. I take it your wife makes good money." All that's been out of my pocket though. She does all right. Don't get me wrong on that, but I am now what's crazy, and thanks to you guys, and knock on this because it's a crazy industry, crazy career I've had, but I am currently making more money now doing independent stuff and in partnership with SI than I ever did before. Elazir Rosario says, "Hit the like, people. Thank you." I think we probably got to 10,000 subscribers during this show, which is pretty monumental. And thank you for all your support here and for Women's Fast Break on SI. Because if anyone was around for the beginning of this show, it was a very uncertain time for me, very stressful time for me. So to think in I would say I started this YouTube I started posting to this YouTube channel less than a year ago, and I really found what it was going to be 6 months ago. So to get to 10,000 subscribers in that period of time and to see the enormous success that women's fast break on SI has had. Um, I owe it to you guys. So, I did it all by myself with a little help, Kevin and AJ and Ernesto and DS and the fans who've been with me from the beginning. Um, Tim, like those guys might are he has different names, but the those guys were with me from the beginning. But the bulk of this happened with the laptop I'm talking into right now in my basement where I am right now. So hopefully it's the beginning of building an empire here. But as much as it was a self-driven thing, and I'm proud of myself for doing it, it would not have happened without you guys and your participation either. So thank you. Where are we at here? Boo, boo, boo. Any more super chats? Let me check that. Not yet. Um, and I'm scrolling back up to see where I was in the chats. I'm doing my best, guys. Starfish Crusaders, where do you think Miller will end up? Look, I mean, I don't know if it's all gonna be retreads. I don't know if we're gonna get coaches from college heading to the WNBA. He's got a good resume. Before the Sparks, he was sort of scapegoated, so I could see him taking over in Dallas or even Chicago or any of those spots, really. It's hard to know without, like, any reporting linking it. Guy Marshall says, "Even though Kennedy's sons players to crybaby bullying into their own hands?" What? Stephanie White always spoke highly of Caitlin Clark. I don't know. She coached a tough team too. I mean, she spoke highly of Caitlin Clark and coached a tough team. Kevin Zwicker, WWR for life. Thank you. That's the group, band group if you want to be a member. But Kevin's been there since the beginning, of course. Sides is great for social media clicks, says Michael S. BT 616. I addressed this before. You have receipts, show them. That's fine. I don't care. I don't hide from anything I said. I never was over the top in my support of Christy Sides either. Let me see where we're at here. Wody Mack says, "I think the Fever are a semifinals team with good offseason additions and a good coach addition." Look, I mean, I think putting a cap on it in semifinals is too conservative. This is a team that absolutely should be expected to compete for the championship next year. No question about it. I mean, I think Caitlin Clark should compete for the MVP and stake a claim as the best player in the league next year. They've got Aaliyah Boston, they've got Kelsey Mitchell, they've got cap space, they've got a new front office, they've got a new coach. There's, you know, um, no reason to not to say it's championship or bust per se, but they should I mean, I wouldn't put a cap on semifinals. The expectation, the goal should be championship. Ken Carlson says, "Love your content about showing C Square being Caitlin." Hey, you guys respond so well to it. Um, I put it, I put it out there. Yeah, White still did have a 1-year contract with the Sun. They obviously worked on an out there. Yeah, I mean, Cynthia says Side seemed to do a decent job in the team building area for a team that caught a lot of help. I'm sure CC coming aboard was hard for the team too. I don't think Sides was receptive enough in the beginning. She also like was almost hesitant to turn things over and give Clark her props. She eventually did, but yeah, we just hit 10,000 subs, guys. So there you go. Thank you. Steph Curry and Mark Jackson. Yeah, that's another. Mark Jackson was out the door, and then Steve Kerr took over. So this is not new things. SRG says ballsy. The Lakers, Bulls, and Warriors all did the same thing at the beginning of their dynasties. Can't more than one team be ballsy? Accent 77 says links were robbed. Mike Healy says, "Hi, Robin. What do you think will happen with the CBA? I think they'll work out a deal before everything is done." Baba Tunde says, "Fever need another post player. Who do they go for?" I mean, I think that the easy name is Satu Sabali, who's a versatile player. I think they need a stretch four who can also play with her back to the basket. Sabali just has a little bit of an injury history, but she makes a lot of sense. Aimser one says Adrian Ross and DePope called coach decision right. Well, credit to them. I can't tell you I saw it, but if they did, there's their credit from me. Oh, Element Gold said he was talking to a hater in the chat. Okay. Peguardo, I heard they're going to keep the protected players private. Have you heard anything? Yes, that is I believe that is the case. The protected players from the expansion draft. Hold on one second. The expansion draft will be kept private. That is what I have heard. AJ Schreiber, Angel Reese going to be player coach of the Sky. She already was player coach of the Sky. That's why Coach Weatherspoon got fired. So many comments, y'all. It's hard to sort through these things, but thank you. How many people are in here right now? We got a lot. Might be the record. Let me see. Well, we've already had a lot of people in here today. Thank you. Oh, that's nice. RC the Hawkeyes and Caitlin fan. Hey, what's going on? First time watcher, instant subscriber. Thank you. Nancy said she would not buy Size's book. Some people would buy Sides' book. Let me put it that way. I think anything that has to do with Caitlin Clark, some people will buy. I think that Stephanie White will adapt her strategy. Look, I mean, she coached to the strength of her team, right? You- She had Alyssa Thomas and Dejanay. Like a team like that is built to be a hard nosed defensive team. That's the kind of players she had. She didn't have Marina Mabry was the best scorer on the team, and they traded for her in the middle of the season. So it would be silly for her to try. And they didn't play slow either. Connecticut tried to run and transition. I think everything that the Indiana Fever do is done with Caitlin Clark in mind. So I think Caitlin Clark will be the impetus for all of the strategies, both from an executive standpoint and obviously from a head coach and strategy standpoint. Joseph Parks White is a proven great coach. That is true. Nancy says, hit the like, everyone. Thank you. Brett Ratcliffe says, uh, sides to the sky would be hilarious. Ian Sanchez says, congrats, Robin, on the success. Thank you. As just Jasmine Ball, thank you for saying I do good work. Doo, doo, doo. Might as well just scroll to the bottom. Rich Latta says, congrats, Robin, coming up right behind you. I hope for success for everybody out there. 100,000's up next, Ernesto, no doubt. BU says White is a defensive coach and Fever doesn't understand defense. Well, that's part of. I don't think White is just a defensive coach. I think she's a top-notch coach, but she will help them. Now, sometimes with defense, people don't understand that personnel also has something to do with defense. You don't just like you can't just make any team into a defensive team. Um, but you need defensive personnel. However, I think she will improve the Fever's defense immediately. And it's up to the front office to improve the roster. Sides' post was arrogant. No thank you to the Fever at all. I don't PP says I don't think so. I mean, what is she supposed to say? She got fired after I'm sure she thought she did a great job. I'm sure she's bitter about being fired from that job. So I don't think Christy Sides owed them a big thank you or anything like that. I don't think she said anything disrespectful. I think she was standing up for herself. And I think that's okay. You know, I also think the Fever upgraded the head coach. So don't know what else to say about that. Um, all right, guys. Let me see any. Oh, David Steele says, "Do you see Stephanie White trying to bring any players from the Sun?" I mean, that's possible. They got a bunch of free agents. Let me look at their Sun free agents. Maybe maybe we could trade. The Fever could trade Melissa Smith to Connecticut and get her there with Dejanay. Holy crap! Yeah, there's no players under contract for the Sun. Um, I'm looking at their cap table. I looked at their cap table from 2025. They only have 3 committed players. So, uh, who is running out? So I think Bonner, Jones, are free agents. Is Thomas a free agent also? And their whole roster is basically a free agent. So, would one of those players fit? Of course, right? I mean, you want a Bonner toward the end of her career? Would be a hell of an addition for sure. Masher says the Sun are about to tank for Juju. Juju can't be drafted until 2027, so that wouldn't be a good idea unless they're gonna tank for a few years. Maybe, Caitlin could play with Enrique and Unrivaled. Mark Barnum says, "I got fired once and thanked the company for firing me by taking all their customers with me." Oh, yeah, I mean, look, it'd be one thing if she said something disrespectful, she didn't. Um, you know, she said something that, you know, I think was relatable. I got no issue with how Christy Sides decided to sign off, if you will. No issues there. Margay says, "Kate to unrivaled, maybe C squared is around the corner." Well, Kate Martin had also hinted at joining Unrivaled a while back, so I don't really see it as a, cause and effect sort of thing. Now, does it hurt? Certainly, it doesn't hurt in their courting of Caitlin Clark, but I don't I think we've known that, that was gonna be the case for a minute. It just was officially announced. That leaves what, 3 spots? They're gonna be trying, I guarantee you, they'll be trying until there's no time left to get Caitlin Clark. Robin, you think your channel has grown this year? Wait till next year. There's gonna be so much hype. as the start of the preseason approaches that everyone's going to eat. Hey, look, we're not even in. We're in the off season, and all the y'all are in here. Uncle J.E. says we'll take sides in Chicago. Eric congratulates me on the 10,000 subscribers. Congratulate yourselves too, guys. You deserve a round of applause. Oh, this is an interesting point. Satu Sabali and Natasha Howard could be coming from Dallas with Amber Cox. You forget all the different connections that these people have. And obviously, like the WNBA has been a small circle, right? Like where you just even look at the media coverage and the way everybody was all like out of sorts because of all the new attention. Joseph says, "I for one would be very disappointed if Caitlyn joined the three." But I don't know why are fans rooting against watching her play basketball? I don't know. She should do whatever she wants. Ernesto, you don't remember an off season like this in the WNBA because you were never following the WNBA like that before. But I think it's also a crazier. Everything has changed. Things just ain't the same for gangsters. I'm sure this is a good reference. I don't understand it, but Unrivaled trying to get Caitlyn is like the stringer from the movie Nightcrawler trying to get Jake Gyllenhaal. Oh, Ernesto says he was. You might have been. I'm not doubting you were a Liberty fan, but I don't think you were following the ins and outs of the WB. Show me the receipts, Ernesto. Element Gold says the next thing in the is the lottery draft in early November. Well, look, I think Caitlin's going to be on a podcast probably tomorrow. I think she recorded a podcast while she was at Iowa. Then she's got that golf thing coming up. Um, so there's going to be that. Then you've got the expansion draft. Then you've got women's college basketball starting at the same time. Um, there'll be off-season stuff, unrivaled, obviously. Pete then said, "Do you think she should join Unrivaled?" It's not my decision to make, so I think she should do whatever she wants. I would like it if she did it. I've said that from the beginning. I mean, look, selfishly, I would like it if she did it. It would be good for me. So I'm not gonna freaking lie about it. But that's her decision. John T says TC's a great golfer. Seems like it. Seems like it. So we will see. You know how all that shakes out and the like. Yeah, I think she's doing Jada's podcast. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be her, Kate Martin, Jada, and, Gabby Marshall is what it looked like to me, and that they were teasing it, so I would be on the lookout for that tomorrow, and obviously, I'll cover things that come out of that, so alright, I wanted to cover this news today, obviously, even, not feeling that great, but couldn't let this happen without doing a live with you guys. That would be awesome, Bobby U. It'll happen. I'll speak that into existence. I think I will be interviewing Caitlin Clark before too long. People are reminding me Taylor Swift is coming to town. That's her next thing, Stern, aka Chris. There we go. We'll get Taylor Swift and um, Caitlin Clark collab. Kate Martin is on Unrivaled. Caitlin Clark fan club. Touched on that earlier. Appreciate the greetings from Denmark. Thank you for the compliment on my hair. Yeah, Berger played well overseas for sure. Other mention of the Taylor Swift concert. Got to show Pegwardo's comments though, because frequent super chatter. All right, guys. I think that'll do it for me tonight. Wanted to hop on here, maybe throw another show on. More live. This is great, says John T. Hey, I do it. I'm pretty consistent with it, I think. I don't think I've been slacking, even in the off season. Master says the interview with Caitlin is scheduled for early January 2027. We can get it before then, I think. We'll see. But sincere appreciation as always. Guys, I thank you so much for your support. Um, Congratulations to you as well on the growth of this. And it means the world to me that you guys are always in here. Until next time.